What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another DFS Army Fantasy Basketball Bold Calls podcast brought to you by OverlayDFS.com and DFS Army, of course. And we are in week 2 of the fantasy basketball season. Lots of things going on, lots of players kind of showing what we thought in the preseason. A lot of action going on. I've got my man, Season Long Says here, the fantasy basketball mastermind himself. What's up, Says?
What's up, man? I mean, I've been watching the internet all day. What is this, like your 6th or 7th show of the day you've done? I mean, you still have your voice left and everything. This is crazy.
I keep a warm cup of tea right next to me here in the office. Keep that voice going. We're doing basketball. This is the best time of year. But by the way, there is a 2-week or 3-week window of each season where you've got hockey, you've got basketball, you've got baseball, you've got football, you've got, I don't even know, MMA is happening. We've got all kinds of sports, and even NASCAR and PGA is still going. So what a time of year, you know, as long as the World Series and we get 4 major sports simultaneous. So it's busy time. It's a busy time.
Yeah, I mean, and also I just want to welcome in our friend, where we had a kind of a cool little expansion happen. Welcome to those watching us on Envision TV, a new streaming service, which we'll talk about later. We are now going to be on television on our own network. Kind of cool.
Well deserved. Although I always thought of myself as someone with a face for radio. So I apologize in advance.
Yeah, for those
for the reality of it.
Yeah, for those that have Envision TV, we're going to be with you weekly. For those listening on the audio caster and the DFS Army feed, everything will be as is. And we'll tell you a little bit more how you can go sign up for Envision TV. And it's a great sports package. And for those of you watching us there already, come over to DFS Army. We're going to, if you like our podcast, there's so much more. And we're going to tell you all the details at the end. But coming over to DFS Army, subscribe our YouTube page, use code ARMY at any point, or geek, and come on over, But I'm ready to talk some fantasy hoops.
Let's talk some fantasy basketball. And here's the thing. So we were doing these breakdowns ahead of the season and for season-long drafters, right? Because that's what's fun in the preseason. Let's talk draft. And you came out and made a very bold call on the Bold Calls podcast where you said you had Karl Anthony Towns as your number 1 rated. That was our DFS Army number 1 rated player in the fantasy basketball draft. And the reasoning that you gave me, because I questioned it, I got a lot of hate mail after it, which wasn't fun. I hate the hate mail. I like the hate mail. I like it. Keep it coming.
Hey, it means they care. It means they care.
I did. I got hate tweets about it. And they said, you're fucking crazy. Steph Curry. They said Anthony Davis. What the fuck? Like the things.
They said Giannis.
I assume these people are fans. I'm only a fan of my money. That's the difference. I don't give a shit who your favorite team is. I'm a fan of my money. So I got a lot of hate mail about this. But meanwhile, Karl Anthony Towns, man, like a bad game for him this season so far has been like where he only scored 80 points, fantasy points. That's, it's a lot of fantasy scoring.
Yeah,
how the hell did you know?
Well, obviously you don't ever know, and it's only been a handful of games, so we're not going to take a victory lap just yet. But I mean, Karl Anthony Towns has opened up the season on fire. I mean, games of 70, 80, and 50 fantasy points right out the gate. Centers are gold in fantasy basketball and season long, especially. And if you can get a guy with the top pick, I know Giannis was another top pick. None of these were wrong answers. They're all doing great. But Karl Anthony Towns is just, there's less risk for him to miss games. He's good player, like mediocre team, great player, mediocre team. And as you see, he's up on our graphic right up here on the window. You can see Karl Anthony Towns there. No, he's just been on fire. We're happy about the call. We took him at number 1 where we had those chances in every draft. And in the DFS Army draft, he fell to me at number 5. So far, so good. So far, so good, man.
Now, let me ask you a question, and this is a little more psychological. Do you think that when Jimmy Buckets left the team last year and made a big stink about how he thought Karl Towns was a soft player, not a winner, right? Do you think that almost put a chip on his shoulder that said, you know something? I'm going to prove that piece of shit wrong. Like, he probably hates Jimmy Butler. And he wants to prove him wrong.
And I don't think that's normally I don't buy into those narratives. I think that narrative streak can be, entertaining, but I think there's something to it here. Karl Anthony Towns was the number 1 overall pick when he came out. He's had some uninspiring starts to his fantasy basketball seasons. And Jimmy Butler really, who's is a tough-nosed player, great player, really called him out. And I think ever since then, I think you're right there. I think Karl Anthony Towns been on fire. I mean, after the All-Star break last year, Karl Anthony Towns was playing like the number 1 overall player. And I think that may have lit a fire under him. And no looking back in DFS. Now you said your whole team over there are DFS gurus, masters. Is Karl Anthony Towns too expensive, or is he just like an auto play at the center position on nights where he's there?
I will tell you this. This is how great Keg is, who does our daily fantasy basketball sheets and basically is our daily fan. He's a top 50 ranked player in the world. One of the winningest players there is in all of daily fantasy sports for basketball and across the board. He's had Karl Anthony Towns as his core, lock him in your lineup play every single week. So every single game so far this season, which has worked out. And you might say, well, that's obvious, but he only picks 2 to 3 core plays every slate. So he's had Towns as the number 1 play on a points per dollar basis, not just as a raw scoring, but points per dollar, everything. So no, the increase in salary, yes, as we are getting higher and higher, and that's how it goes. As he's consistent, that salary goes higher and higher, and it becomes less and less of a you must lock this guy in, because eventually he's not going to score 80, he's going to score 49, and that won't be worth a 12K salary point. But for now, he's still a fantastic value. And I wanted to get back just to my point before. I'm very inspired by hatred. So it speaks to me more than other things. Like, that would inspire me more. Like, there's somebody I hate in the DFS world that has a competitive sort of thing going on. And that hatred inspires me to make DFS Army better all the time. So I'm with Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah. And you remember, we received similar hate mail after we gave a bold prediction that Lamar Jackson would be the overall QB1. And, again, we fully copped to that was not expected. Like, we thought it was like a 10% chance, maybe 15% chance. And obviously he's been that player. And Karl Anthony Towns is not that much of a bold call, but a lot of people had him ranked 5th, 3rd, 4th, 6th. We were pretty strong on him number 1, and it's working out, man. So I agree. Hate inspires, but all good.
I'm inspired by my hatred. It's weird. All right, let's move on to the next topic of the slate, or of the breakdown here. And that's another guy that this is a lot of back padding for week 2, but tell me about Trae Young, the start to the season he's had. This is a guy also that you had elevated into the first round of your rankings, even though most of the ADPs had a mid to late second. So what was it about Trae Young that you saw in the offseason or last year that kind of gave you this idea that he would really blossom into the superstar? And when I say superstar, like I bring a DFS perspective, his salary is now right there with Steph Curry. It's right there with James Harden and Russell Westbrook. So he is now and Dame Lillard. So he is now treated as an elite tier point guard. Tell me how we could have known this, and what you saw in him to elevate that projection all the way up into the first round.
And I would like, to take notice that Trae Young is our second graphic. I mean, he is our guy right there. We could see him right there. That's our graphic. Now, we love Trae Young. I mean, he's one of these players. He's undersized. He's been doubted ever since he was in school. He was traded in the actual real draft. He was traded for Luka Doncic, and where they received an extra pick. Last year, everyone was like, oh my God, what a terrible pick, because Trae Young in Summer League was shooting very poorly. But I'm trying to think of like a football or another sport comparison to someone that everyone doubted on the college level was a high pick and just never looked back. And that started late last year. Can you think of anyone?
Like a Donnie Mitchell, maybe?
Yes. That's a pretty good comparison.
Because he was, he went like a little lower than he probably should have, and certainly went behind guys who are way worse than him now. So that was, yeah. All right. Yeah. Wow. I knew something about basketball. There we go.
Yeah. Yeah. And Trae Young, I mean, he's come out. They've only played 2 games, the Hawks, but listen to these numbers. 61 and 58 fantasy points, but listen to the actual numbers: 39 points, 9 assists, and 7 rebounds. the guy is 6 foot tall, maybe. He's pulling down 7 rebounds. The second game was, well, sorry, I had it in the reverse order. The first game was 38, 9, and 7. And let me see where he got there. And yeah, in similar second game, it's just an unbelievable where he's stealing the ball. Obviously, he's not blocking the ball, but he had 6 threes in his first game and 5 threes in the second game. He's shooting solid percentages. He's playing 37 minutes a game. These stats were predictable. I think the amount of uncertainty is what pushed him into the second round. Sharp drafters were taking him on the 1-2 turn, but if we redrafted today, and I know it's only been a week, he would go ahead of LeBron. I mean, it's just there's no question. You have to catch these young ascending stars before it happens, and if you get a sense, and I urge you the same thing on the waiver wire. You want to go and you want to look and find these young ascending players or guys that break out, and there's a path to continue that. We hit on Trae Young too. Now we had a couple misses in the first couple rounds, but these are the ones that stood out because we received a lot of bite back, and that's fine. I get it because this could go sideways on us in week 2 and 3. I doubt it, but Trae Young should be totally expected. I love that he's killing it right now. He's one of the most fun players to own in all of fantasy as well.
Absolutely. And you mentioned my boy, Luka Doncic, who's also been spectacular to start the season. Amazing. So nothing wrong with that. And, I'm going to save my, I did have a phone. I did get a little insight into him and Porzingis hanging out together, but I'm going to save that for next week.
And Porzingis has been playing well too.
Yeah, the Zingo is doing all right. So, as they give him minutes, that's going to be a spectacular combo down in Dallas. Mark, man, what the hell's his name? The owner, Mark Cuban. He's doing well with that team. So well done transitioning that team into the new era. Something that my beloved Knicks have been waiting 25 years to try to figure out how to do. So talking about season-long fantasy basketball, who are some free agent pickups that I could look at this week for my team? It's Monday. In my league, the waivers kind of happen now after the weekend. So who are some players that I should be targeting that weren't drafted that are available on waivers for me as of right now? And I have some names, but what about a Josh Hart? Is that a pickup?
Yeah. So, there's so many guys. Josh Hart's definitely one. And Josh Hart, that's a great name. He's been so solid. And with Drew Holiday getting hit with the injury bug early, he'll probably will be out tonight, Drew Holiday, but he'll be back later this week. You can at least get one more solid start out of Josh Hart, but he's a good player. He's
a lot better than I thought. I did not think he was a good player last year, and all of a sudden he seems pretty good.
He showed some flashes, but he didn't get the opportunity when he was on the Lakers. And again, but he will, his production will come down a little bit. I wouldn't break the bank to get Josh Hart. I would definitely roster him. I've rostered him in the couple leagues already. So it's pretty smart that you mentioned him.
What about my man, Dwayne Bacon?
Yeah, Dwayne Bacon in sharper leagues was probably drafted, but in regular casual leagues, including the DFS Army one, he was a pickup. With some minutes opening up over there with Batum going out, Bacon's going to be one of the beneficiaries. So I'd certainly recommend Bacon. Here's my 3 priority ads. Anunoby on Toronto is 60% owned. So, again, usually we try to stay under 50% owned, but he came right out of the gate. He's the minutes are there. Going a little deeper, Frank Kaminsky. Now, DeAndre Ayton got hit with that 25-game suspension for having a diuretic, and you heard this story, I'm assuming.
Yeah, he's what is he? I don't know, his excuse for using the diuretics or anything, but I know he's out, and I've been playing Kaminsky, the tank, every day.
So Frank the Tank is and center, again, it's hard. Center is really tough to find people. So Frank Kaminsky came right out of the gate and put up some nice numbers. So I would go pick him up. And Rodney Hood, man, only 25% owned right now. Rodney Hood, he's averaging about 30 minutes plus a game. He definitely needs to be picked up and rostered. Just going back to Anunoby, though, even though he's 60% owned, he definitely needs to be rostered. If he's out there in some reason in a casual league, and I know those of you playing in 12 and 14 team leagues, he's probably already rostered or drafted, but just make sure, just scour your waiver wire one more time.
How has OG's scoring been, though? He hasn't traditionally, he's been a minutes guy and a defense guy. Has he turned on some offense yet, or is he just
Yeah,
mostly
so
producing rebounds and stuff like that?
through the first couple seasons, you tell me, is this a rosterable player? 12.3 points, 7 rebounds, 2.3 blocks, and 1.7 threes while shooting 57% from the field.
That's really not bad.
He shouldn't be on the waiver wire with those type of numbers.
Yeah, that's really not bad at all. But he's getting minutes doing that. Like,
Correct.
I like a player who's doing that in short minutes, getting a minutes expansion, whereas really that's been him on 30, 32 minutes of play. So
right, but the minutes aren't going away. That's my point.
Yeah.
What you can safely project him to stay around 29 to 31 minutes. So that's why I put him on there. And Crowder, man. Crowder, it's old salty veteran. He's only 29% owned. The logic behind Andy Crowder is similar that I said to Hood. It's like he's been productive so far. Crowder's averaging 13.7 rebounds, 2.5 assists, and 2.5 threes in 30 minutes, man. So that's someone that the casual player will probably just skip right over, and you should click and add him now.
Couple of minutes eaters from Says.
Yeah,
that's what we're talking about. Guys who are just available. They're out there all the time. They're eating up minutes, and they're not great points per minute producers. Although I'm curious to see what Rodney Hood has been doing with his minutes. With Hood's been doing with his minutes, because he's not a guy that I've really been using in DFS at all. And if he's producing, I want to know about it.
Yeah, so Rodney Hood, I'm looking up while I'm talking to you. He's been like a career like underachiever, right? I mean, he had that little run in the playoffs where he came alive, but Rodney Hood right now, his game log, the Blazers have, let's see, they've played 3 games now. Again, the first 2 games were a little underwhelming, but he came alive in the third game. He got 20 points, 6 rebounds. He had a couple steals and a block. So, it was there. It came on again. It's in sharper leagues. You're going to have to get to these guys before everybody else does. So 32 minutes. And it's tough. I mean, this is where the best waiver wire guys show themselves. And in leagues where you don't have to pay per pickup, it's totally worth picking these guys up on spec and seeing what happens. He certainly came alive. Crowder and Hood are not. Everyone's not going to rush to the waiver wire to get them like some of the other high profile guys like Hart, Kaminsky that we talked about. So
I'm trying to think who else are those players that are going to be the highest priority ads. Guys who have done really well.
About them. You talked about like Bacon, those players. PJ Washington was a popular pickup in week 1. And, there's a few other guys. If you just, what I like to do is sort, not by total fantasy points, but average points per game, and then look by minutes, and then kind of investigate from there to see which players are going to be able to be projectable forward.
Let me throw a crazy one at you just for this week. Are we picking up Marquez Chris, knowing that Looney seems he's at least hurt for tonight, and who knows how that goes? Looney hasn't been a guy who has been consistently on the court. Are you picking up a Marquez Chris, or is that a bit too far for you?
In most 12-team leagues that have 5 bench, you might need to see it a second time. It's because you could start picking up and dropping these guys all day. And in daily leagues, sure, you want to do that. In weekly leagues, you have to wait till the next week to play him anyway. So I would put I would click the star next to his name just to have him there. Dwight Howard was dropped after a couple poor performances and then came on big time yesterday. Now, again, in most leagues where center position is far and few between, Dwight Howard is a viable pickup. He had a pretty big game. Before we move forward, I just want to bring you a quick message from our friends at overlaydfs.com. Tired of having to pick the perfect player at every position in order to win your salary cap DFS? Tired of having your salary cap lineup out of the money in the first 5 minutes? Does playing salary cap DFS feel like a job and not a game? Want a fantasy game with the pros, where the pros with 150 lineups and computer algorithms can't dominate? Well, Overlay DFS.com has a new revolutionary start-sit game for fantasy sports. They actually just changed it, Geek, where you could put in 10 lineups. They're no longer the home of single entry. Now they have 10 lineups. Here's how you play. It's a simple start-sit format. You make 12 start-sit decisions from over 30 matchups that they present to you. A win, a loss, or a tie will be awarded to your overall record for each decision. Records in the top 10% of users win 9 times your buy-in. If you get the perfect 12-0 record, you'll win their progressive jackpot. All matchups are player versus player who will have more total fantasy points. Usually 8-4 is good enough to cash. Some weeks it's 9-3, but is even 7-5 sometimes. And what you want to do is you want to keep doing it until all the stars align and you go that perfect 12-0 and win 9 times your buy-in. This week, they have some pretty cool matchups on their Geek. If you want to play, you can play cross sport as well, and you would choose. So tell me what you think of these matchups. Who you think is going to have more fantasy points? Mason Rudolph or Ryan Fitzpatrick? Who will have more fantasy points on the overlay DFS.com?
I'm going contrarian with Fitzpatrick tonight.
Yeah, I think that's good. James Conner versus Juju in a half PPR. Who's going to have more fantasy points?
Conner in the easiest lock I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, and then here's a real trashy one that overlay DFS.com has for you. The Miami defense versus the Miami kicker, Jason Sanders.
Son of a bitch. I'm going kicker because I think the defense is getting us a 0.
Okay. All right. So there you go. So that's how overlaydfs.com works. And for basketball season, guys, you've never seen a sweat like this. You pick your 12 start sit decisions, and with every pass, with every rebound, the whole standings flip upside down. You can download their app, search for Overlay Fantasy Sports, and you should be able to find it. Download their app. And thanks to our friends at overlaydfs.com for sponsoring this podcast. All right, Geek.
Absolutely.
Let's get back to it.
All right, here's my thing after week 1. I think the biggest takeaway for me out of the entirety of everything I saw, all the games and everything, is what the fuck is going on with Golden State? They suck now. This is like an unstoppable force that people said it's not worth watching basketball for because they're so good. Now, yes, they lost some players, but I mean, which loss hurt the most? And is it something that can be turned around? Should we sell? Should we buy? What's the story?
So not only is the team bad, because normally we don't care if the team is bad for fantasy. The players are bad. Steph Curry has had very mediocre games. D'Angelo Russell has been just not good games at all. And Draymond Green has been super disappointing. So here's what I think's going on. They've come into the seasons being the overwhelming favorite every year for the last 7 or 8 years, right? And now it's a new game in town. I think to answer your question, the biggest loss was Klay Thompson. He was known as the guy that everyone loved in the locker room. I mean, people all around the league, players, coaches, love Klay Thompson. Not only was he a defensive guy, he ego free. He would not worry about how many shots he get. He sometimes he would take 4 shots. Sometimes he would take 24 shots.
Klay Thompson reminds me of Houston from the Knicks.
Allen Houston?
Allen Houston. That type of player, man. He's big. He's just good at everything, but pops those threes when you need him. A really great player and underutilized on that team most of the time because of how many stars they have.
Yeah, and Allen Houston was he wasn't known for his defensive prowess, but offensively, that's actually a really great comp for Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson is known as a pretty elite defender too, a perimeter defender. So there was some talk in the off, when he hurt himself that he was a free agent, but Golden State locked him up pretty quick. I thought he might be one of the guys that went over to New York or to Brooklyn. So that said, I think this is a buy low opportunity for the players. The guy who drafted Steph Curry in the top 5 picks is probably looking to get out. I don't think you're going to be able to give him some sort of middling guy, but if you could put together one of those dreaded 2-for-1s where you give him like CJ McCollum and some other guy that's popped in the first week, you never know. Sometimes those, it can happen. Draymond Green, I think, can be had, and I still like him. He would be one of my, I like him to rack up assist numbers this year. They'll get it together, Golden State, and D'Angelo Russell is certainly a buy low. Someone's going to be looking to get out on him because he wasn't part of that, that whole Golden State dynasty. So they may
he's never shown the ability to score well on that team. So yeah, I like that. I like that thought process too. And I just want to say I totally agree with you. I think the Warriors will turn it around. I mean, it's just a week, and a lot of times what happens is when these teams experience new dynamics, It takes them a little bit of while. Basketball is such a team sport. It really does take some time to gel in with new players. So, or a new mix of players like what Golden State has. Plus, they're so reliant on Steph Curry's shooting touch right now. They're going to have to figure out other ways to score besides, Curry, Pop, and Trays.
Yeah, and there's a couple other players I thought that have been surprising this year. I mean, Luka Doncic right now is sitting. He's the number 3 overall fantasy player. You called that one. You thought we were aggressively putting him at 12th overall. You said move him up. I mean, you forced. I mean, we had him in the middle of the second round.
You're forcing me, Luka. Yo, bro, I throw it to my boy Kristaps. He throw it back to me, and then I shoot 3-pointer. It's great times, my man.
Yeah, that's audio from Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis.
They're very simple. They're very simple fellows. Yo, bro, throw it to me. I shoot 3-point ball. It's all good. They're very simple. They don't have complex conversations. And then after a game, we go out, we smash hot chicks. It's bar. Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, or guys, we're not judging.
Hey, whatever makes them happy, man.
Yeah, so I just want to talk about a few other quick players that have surprised us through the first week of the fantasy season. And then we'll wrap it up, and we'll tell people how they could sign up on both Envision TV and for DFS Army, and we'll promote a little bit about what else we have going on. A couple other guys surprised me. I mean, Kyrie Irving is just killing it right now. I mean, I didn't see that coming. I thought he's going to be good, but he's just gone off. He's taken total control of the NBA. He's the number 2 overall fantasy player through the first week. Probably shouldn't be surprised there. Andre Drummond has been on fire. I mean, in one game he had like 30 rebounds. It was disgusting. Brandon Ingram, who's currently
Ingram, what a great mention.
Yeah, he's the number 8 overall fantasy player. His fantasy points have gone 40, 45, and 60. He just looks like a different player, looking like a steal in the Anthony Davis trade. And Russell Westbrook returning top 10 value. I mean, people wrote him off. I mean, he's still Russell Westbrook. I mean, you can't really. It didn't change his skill set.
Can I tell you? I'm going to throw in. You talked about some buy low candidates. If there was ever a sell high candidate for me, it's Russell Westbrook, because he's doing this while Harden can't hit a shot. Like, Harden's going to be able to shoot again, above 40%. So if there's ever a great sell high candidate to me, I think you can get a little more value back from Russell Westbrook right now than where he was drafted.
I got one for you then. Would you trade, if you're the Russell Westbrook owner, would you trade him for, if you're the Steph Curry owner, right?
Yeah.
Would you make that trade? I'm sorry.
If I'm Westbrook, I do trade for Steph Curry. Yes.
Okay. So absolutely. That'd be the perfect one then. If you
I'd be all about Steph. Yeah.
Go to the Steph Curry owner and say, hey, Russell's killing it. He's top 10. Steph Curry's not even in the top 20 right now.
I would be all about that trade right now.
So there's a great piece of actionable advice from the geek. Go make that trade. I think that can be done. And I think it can be done for a short while. Like, you literally have probably the next game. Steph is about to explode and go crazy. So that would be one. The last guy I want to talk about is someone that we mentioned in the preseason, was Lauri Markkanen. He has just been awesome this year. And, no surprise. And these are players that you took in the 5th, 6th round. And if you have these guys, if you have, other sleepers that were popular, like Bam Adebayo, you're doing well. So,
along with Lauri Markkanen, I think we have to mention someone who was actually in my Hebrew school class list with me, which is Zach LaVine.
Zach Levine.
No, wait. That's a different guy then. Wait, it's a different guy. It's a different guy.
Yeah.
I thought it was Zach LaVine.
Yeah.
Oh, Zach. No, that's a different guy. But nonetheless, Zach LaVine has also been. It seems like one or the other, though. It doesn't seem like both of them can do it in the same game, but one or the other going off every single week. Just got to pick, or every game, you just got to pick the right one. If you have a daily and if you got a weekly, you just live with those. If you just live with those swings in season long. But I think it's a different Zach LaVine now that you mentioned it.
Yeah. So, it's funny because I knew it was Zach LaVine that was in my Hebrew school class.
Of course you did.
Right.
For those of you did.
For those of you listening in the Midwest, there's a lot of Jewish people on the East Coast. So we go to Hebrew school. So.
Of course you knew it was Zach LaVine.
We're only kidding. We're only kidding. So anyway, for those of you that heard us in the beginning, we were talking about we're also now on Envision TV. Envision TV is a new streaming service where you can get the NBA package, you can get the NFL package, and you can watch all different. I think they have over 1,000 live TV stream channels. Go visit envision.tv. Sign up for packages as low as $20. That's right, $20, and you can get the NBA package. Check them out. Use promo code ARMY, and all you do is you go to envision.tv, order the package, and they send you an email how to sign up and get that going on your TV. All you need is a Fire Stick, and you can get going. Geek, you have an Envision TV coming to you. They're sending one to you. I can't wait for you to check it out so you can talk about it as enthusiastic as I am. It has changed my life as far as live sports viewing.
Yeah, there we go. It should be awesome. I love live sports and watching them, and so, you know, anytime you can get every channel and all that good stuff, I think it's a really good thing. I also want to mention, of course, most important, DFSArmy.com, where we cover every sport, every site. NBA season is kicking off. It's going crazy. We've already crushed NBA. I wish I could show you because I'm the fantasy football guy, right? So most of my content is focused on NFL, and that's what I do all week. I don't have time to study really the NBA matchups during the week, but man, the sheets that we put out, our projections are second to none. The Domination Station Optimizer, I can literally spend about 35 minutes putting together fantasy basketball lineups that are spectacular. Now, one thing about daily fantasy basketball is you've got to be around close to lineup lock. Not as bad as it used to be, but you've got to find out who's playing that day and breaking news. And the key to being successful in daily fantasy basketball is knowing who's out that day and who are the mispriced value plays. And the best place to get it is in DFSArmy.com's community Slack group, where we have a breaking news channel. We literally employ within DFS Army a person whose only job it is to scan the wires for any NBA pertinent news, post it, and give us a breakdown of who it affects and why. This is the difference between DFS Army and every other place, where you might get a blurb like, "Hey, here's the starting lineup," and at DFS Army, that blurb doesn't just come out. It says, "Hey, Drew Holiday is out. Lock in Hart in all of your lineups. He's going to get 35 minutes. He's been crushing with his time. This is the reason why." So you don't just get the news, but we have a full-time person whose only job it is to break the news down for us. I live in the breaking news channel. So between a cheat sheet which gives you core plays from the best player in the world and a breaking news channel that you can monitor, if you're going to play daily fantasy basketball, don't. If you don't have a DFS Army subscription or some other site that tries to replicate what we do, which there are a few that do it in a mediocre way, if you can't do that, don't even play. It's not worth it. Yeah, there's no playing this without it.
Absolutely. And the other thing I want to promote quickly is our Beat the Bookie section. I started doing a podcast with John Alicia, and he is, for those of you who haven't checked him out yet, if you're into sports wagering, you got to join the Beat the Bookie tab on dfsarmy.com. Use code BTB, Beat the Bookie, to get a discount there. But also check out our podcast with John Alicia. That one goes out free, and he gives great actionable tips. There was an overwhelming response the 2 weeks in a row. We're going to be doing that mostly on Friday or Saturdays. Geek, I don't know where you found John Alicia, but thank God you did. I used a couple of his sports wagering plays already, and I got off my cold streak, and I can't wait to watch what he does for basketball as well. So if you want to go and join DFS Army, today you can use promo code GEEK or says and get 20% off. But I also recommend go checking out Beat the Bookie, because that is the section along with the basketball DFS that everyone's buzzing about right now as people are transitioning in the heart of NFL season over to basketball. This has been one of those seasons where, sometimes a lot of the DFS websites, they do really well for football and then start tailing off a little bit. There's been so much interest in basketball this year. It's amazing how many people have come to me and asked, how do I get involved with DFS basketball and DFS Army? So Congratulations to you for putting out such great content with all your providers there.
Listen, I come from the fantasy football world, and I love daily fantasy basketball now because it's every day. It's so much easier. It's so much good. When I say easier, your chance of cashing is not easier. I mean, it's the same. Your odds are the same, but it's easier to make lineups. It's easier to do them. Like NFL requires a lot of correlation, a lot of thought, a lot of study. To really create really good lineups, or just reading my sheet and just using it, which won somebody $50,000 this week. That works too. But for basketball, there's not a whole lot of that. It's just play the best guys, and if you can identify the best values, and you're not afraid to jump on a name you haven't fully heard of just because he's starting for some team at the point guard position, and in your mind you think, hey, Tim Frazier sucks, fuck that guy. But we're like, no, he's getting 30 minutes. Just play him. And that's how you fit all the studs in your lineup. Like if you're inclined to do so, it really works out, and it's easy and it's quick. You only got to spend about an hour a night doing it if you have these tools, and you could be very, very successful. So we see all the members crushing contests every single day on the regular, or most days, not every day, but a lot. And it's an awesome thing, super fun. So if you're into basketball, dfsarmy.com, check it out. And oh, by the way, you'll get every single other sport as well.
Yep. All right. So you can find me on Twitter or in the Slack chat at Alan Seslowski. You see it right there on the screen. If you're listening on the audio cast, ALANSESLOWSKY. And you could find Kevin the Geek at FFootballGeek. Tweet him, Slack him, do whatever you want. He loves answering your questions, especially 5 minutes before lineup block. Ask him all your questions.
That's when I'm most available.
Right. Don't do that. If you didn't get the sarcasm, don't do that. All right, my brother. Thanks for jumping in here. We'll have Mutt back next week. Mutt 18, the DFS Army coach. Thanks for stepping in. And I will see you Wednesday this week to do the Geeks Vegas lines.
Deuces, man. See you Wednesday.
Bye, everybody.